In the Roaring '20s, Lakemore and Sawyerwood had been resort communities with bathing beaches, roller coasters, and dance halls. In the Great Depression, though, those drafty summer cottages on tiny lots on narrow dirt streets became permanent residence for those who had no choice. Lakemore was advanced enough to have sewers and water, but Sawyerwood was not. So by the 60s, the ground in Sawyerwood had become so saturated with sewer that some of my classmates would succumb to outbreaks of hepatitis, leaving their desks empty for months at a time. Akron and the county offered a solution. They offered to extend sewers to Sawyerwood to alleviate the terrible situation. Otherwise, people would die. This brought my first civics lesson. Sawyerwood was a working class community not interested in being saved by the fat cats of the big city. They jammed the poorly ventilated town hall, and I was there, I remember this. The windows were steamed, and so were the people. They argued that no one had a right to force sewers down their streets and attach thousands of dollars in assessments on their property taxes. This was America. Outside the town hall, there was another discussion, which was really interesting. I learned that the real reason for this opposition was sewers bring subsidized housing, and subsidized housing brings blacks. Interesting conversation. So that's part of the problem, I thought. The fat cats were going to push, already suffering from problems in Akron. There were the tensions, I believe, in '68, and this was all going on at the same time, and the people in Sawyerwood saw this as Akron's solution to its problems. In other words, Emanuel Seller wanted to keep the easily inflamed adolescents for his own purposes and not let them vote and maybe vote him out of office. I was infuriated. We lost that initiative on the ballot. I loved my country dearly, but I was angry. On a warm, sunny afternoon a few weeks later, in the summer, just before my graduation, we got word during lunch that some kids had been killed at Kent State. Sorry. As far as I was concerned, the 60s had turned into the 70s. Something awful had happened, not only in this country, but in my community. We were divided for lots and lots of reasons. There's this sandy-haired guy named Ray Redmond who covered Portage County. And he is the hero of the day because he'd been doing his job, went to the Portage County prosecutor's office, and there on the prosecutor's desk is an FBI report on what happened at Kent State. Prosecutor walks out of the office. Ray grabs the report, starts reading it. Here's the prosecutor coming back, puts the book down, races out to the sidewalk, sits down, and writes everything he's read. Writes the story about the FBI says Ohio overreacted at Kent State. I would later find out that John S. Knight gets a call from J. Edgar Hoover, who's ticked. You shouldn't have done this. And J. Edgar Hoover, or John S. Knight says, tough. You mean John S. Knight can do that to J. Edgar Hoover? Fascinating business. I also didn't know that the newspaper that I was clipping in my house was one of the best in the country. And it was owned by one of the best publishers in the country. To me, that guy, John S. Knight, was some guy writing an editor's notebook every week, trying to tell me how I should think. Sometimes agreed with him, but sometimes I disagreed. I knew that I agreed with him most often, though, when he talked about Vietnam. I didn't know that this guy from Akron was a giant. I didn't know that he exchanged notes with Eleanor Roosevelt, played golf with Dwight Eisenhower, Richard Nixon, and on November 18th, 1963, 4 days before a day that would live in history, he dined with John F. Kennedy. I didn't know that his favorite haunt was Portage Country Club, and his best friend was Eddie Thomas, my dad's boss, several layers removed. Firestone was being investigated for possibly producing bad tires, the Firestone 500. I had a source who called me and said, I have access to documents that show that Firestone was doing the tests and they knew they had bad tires. He said, I will get you those reports, but you have to grant me anonymity for the rest of my life because it will ruin me if anyone finds out. So the editors and I and our lawyer got together and we talked about this, and the lawyer said, well, how should I address this guy? And I said, we're going to call him Deep Tread.